10 million people are going to have to find something else to do with their midday afternoons as America's favorite TV judge, after a 25-year run at the top of the rating standings, has decided to turn in her robe and her gavel, and, according to Entertainment Weekly, a $47 million annual salary at the height of her reign for a new chapter, as Judge Judy turns the page on one of the most successful TV courtroom shows in American history. Meanwhile, another pop culture and daytime staple has another reason to celebrate at the quarter pole, as The View this week marked the beginning of their 25th season of Hot Topics, debates, and celebrity and pop culture interviews. And meanwhile, the folks over at Jeopardy are looking to do some public relations and damage control after the Mike Richards fiasco left them without a host, an executive producer, and looking to get back into the good graces of their loyal fans after the passing of legendary host Alex Trebek, which begs the question, who exactly will step behind the lectern to replace the legend of question and answers? It's certainly a lot to fit into one podcast, but in order to give it the old college try, I enlisted the help of Nate Day, an entertainment reporter for Fox News, who joined me this week to discuss these trio of topics and so much more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. We began our discussion by Day reflecting on just how big of an impact that Judge Judy has made on American consciousness and the legacy her show leaves behind.
She, I think, has had a enormous impact. She turned court TV into, she made people tune in for the judge as much as for the sort of silly cases and the silly people that will settle their cases in court and stuff. That's all well and entertaining, but I think Judy has such a strong personality and personal brand that people tuned in for her as well, and that's changed court TV forever, because you need to be a performer to be a court TV judge, and so I think that's really the impact that she's had. But it's people in general have a huge affinity for daytime television, reality television. So her show ending after all of these years is certainly a big deal, because people are kind of losing something that's been a staple in their lives for a long time at this point.
Day says for other court shows to be successful in the future, they can take a page out of Shineland's book by having a showmanship appeal.
Like I said, I think they, from here on out, the judges on the shows will really have to be showmen as well. You know, they've got to be entertaining. I mean, Chrissy Teigen even had a small claims court television show on Quibi. You know, so the judge is a huge appeal now in these court TV shows, and that's always going to be the case forever, regardless of what the sort of shtick or niche of the court is going to be. It's always going to be very centric on who the judge is, because not only was she fun to watch, but she, you know, is a popular figure outside of the courtroom as well. Her personal story and sort of the barriers that she's broken down as a woman on television and as a woman working within the law. She shattered a lot of boundaries, and so I think future court television shows are going to be looking for somebody that parallels that in some way. You know, a larger than life figure is going to have to headline those shows from here on out.
Yeah, and then, as you know, she's not slowing down after she takes the year off. She's launching her new show, Judy Justice, and she's also an executive producer on Hotbed. So just talk to me on what you think is next for Judge Judy, and how much longer you think she'll have the energy to do all of this.
Well,
buddy.
I think, honestly, she's going to go until she can't. I think she's proven that she's a serious Energizer bunny, because she's been doing this for a long, long time already. And, you know, if she's willing to keep lining up projects like that and multiple projects at the same time, then I don't see her stopping probably anytime soon. And you know, she's got the benefit of not only being, you know, a celebrity making gobs of money, but she's you know, working in her passion as well. She's well versed in law and being a judge, and so I think, you know, she's kind of got the best of both worlds in terms of what she wants to do. So why stop? You know.
Absolutely. And my final Judge Judy question for you today, buddy, is about pop culture and the impact you think her show's had on everyday life, because her show averages over 10 million viewers a day. So it's obviously had an impact on everyday life and everyday people. So tell me about how you think she's transcended not only the legal arena, but pop culture as well.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I mean, I was exposed to Judge Judy at an early age because she just is on TV every day. You know what I mean? If you're homesick from school, I would watch Judge Judy. If I happened to be with my grandparents, I would watch Judge Judy. So, you know, whether I'm talking about her on a podcast like this, if I'm writing about her for work, if I'm just cracking a joke with my friends, everybody knows who Judge Judy is, you know, and I don't think anybody dislikes or disrespects Judge Judy either. You know, there's nothing to dislike about her. So as far as an effect on pop culture, she's just so like deep seated in American life because she's always there. She's always been there. You know, she's been a staple for a long, long time.
Yeah, and transitioning now to the other big entertainment story, Molly, is what's happening over there at Jeopardy. Obviously, Mike Richards gave himself a primetime job, and then a remark he made on a podcast came out, and then he had to step away, and ultimately he was relieved of his duties as executive producer of Jeopardy. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on the whole situation and what's happening over there in Jeopardy, and where you think they go from here.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a mess, and it's really sad to see a show like Jeopardy step in it like they have, because that's another one sort of like Judge Judy. You know, Jeopardy and Alex Trebek were such a staple, a beloved staple of American life. So it's and so wholesome. So it was really sad to see them not only make a mistake, but make the mistake of having somebody who didn't follow that brand it turns out that Mike Richards was not a Trebek level good guy, right? And so it's a big bummer to see Jeopardy going through what they are. And I don't exactly know if they asked me what they should do. I don't know what I would tell them, honestly, at this point. Besides, like Maya Bialik, it was a very popular guest host, and she'll be doing the spin-offs. But they're going to have to take a lot of time to really consider whoever they decide to put in that spot, because I think it was a bigger deal than they anticipated, and I think it's a bigger deal to viewers than they anticipated. Who is going to fill Alex Trebek's shoes? That's a really big pair of shoes to fill.
Absolutely. And Nate, I'm curious to ask you about repairing their public image. Obviously, the show got a lot of publicity after the passing of Alex Trebek. And from what I've seen, Nate, it seems like they sort of fumbled the good publicity that they had following his passing. So tell me, how do you think they can get back in the good graces of people and repair their public image?
I think what they're going to have to do is cater to fans more than ever before. They're going to really have to be invested in figuring out which of the guest hosts were popular with fans and which ones are going to make the fans happy, because that's who's upset right now is the fans. If they had chosen somebody else like Aaron Rodgers or LeVar Burton that had a really strong impact on fans, I don't think that people would have maybe dug up this stuff from Mike Richards' past, because that podcast is a couple of years old at this point. I think that they didn't listen to fans enough. And so in order to repair their image, they're going to really have to turn to the fans and just give them whatever they want, because that's who they upset, big time, was the fans.
The customer's always right, even in TV, right? And then tell me, what do you think is next for Jeopardy? Who do you think they'll turn to as the new permanent host?
I think probably the most likely situation is that Maya Bialik probably takes over. There's been sort of rumors circulating that she and the producers of her sitcom are working really hard to allow her to do both. Those are two demanding jobs time-wise, but if they can work it out, I could see that being the case. She fits the Jeopardy brand. She's wholesome. She's, got a little bit of a geekier side. She's a household name, so it makes sense. But, I also know Aaron Rodgers has since said that he would have taken the gig and figured out a way to schedule it if he had been offered it. People lobbied so hard for LeVar Burton to be the host that I think that's those two are options, I think. And the other thing, when Mike Richards was named host, there was a lot of backlash that it didn't feel like they had considered, it sort of felt like Bialik was sort of the token woman, and it didn't feel like they considered any people of color or anybody of any other, non-white male demographic to take over the show. And so I think it's likely that we maybe see somebody that doesn't look like Alex Trebek take the position as well, just to like I said, appease fans.
Yeah, and the final topic I wanted to talk to you today is about the 25th season of The View, but obviously yesterday they launched their 25th season, and they've now recorded over 5,000 shows. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the impact that The View has had sort of on mainstream media, and why you think it's lasted so long.
I think part of what's interesting about The View is that more so than any other daytime talk show, they sort of thrive on I don't want to say controversy so much, but people butting heads. You know what I mean? They have people from really all sides of the political spectrum on that show, and everybody loves a good spat, some good drama, and that show certainly has it. But it's got enough hosts that people can say, you know, I enjoy Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg as opposed to I enjoy, I don't, you know, Meghan McCain's not on it anymore, but that's the political spectrum, you know, that it widely appeals to people. There's at least one or two hosts that you can get behind and enjoy and want to listen to regardless of who you are. And I think that's unique among daytime talk shows, for them to have such a wide variety of opinions and people on the panel.
Yeah, and obviously, as you know, Meghan McCain stepped away from the show because she wanted to spend more time with her family, and she didn't want to move back to New York from Washington, where her husband's based. So I'm wondering if you can talk about her departure from the show and whether you think what comes next for the show, because I know that they said they're going to take a little bit of time before permanently replacing her. So I'm wondering your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think that's brilliant because I think that team sort of predicted what Jeopardy did not, right? I think they knew that whoever they're going to choose is one way or another going to be completely picked apart by anybody that watches the show. And now it's so easy to go back several years in podcasts and find, you know, when people say something that's not so flattering about somebody, or they say something mean or something wrong, it's a lot easier to find that now. So it's a lot easier to sort of cancel somebody. So I think that the View is doing the right thing in that they're just really going to work hard to vet their options, find the right person to take over, and fingers crossed avoid the pitfalls that Jeopardy did not. So I think it'll be a while probably before we know who is replacing Meghan McCain.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's on your short list to do that, buddy? I'm curious.
You know, that's a tough one. I'm a big fan of putting like comedians on those shows. You know, regardless of what you think of Joy Behar and her politics, she's funny, she's entertaining. So I wouldn't mind if somebody closer to that brand, I guess, ends up on the show. But you know, the Talk is another daytime talk show that's lost a couple of hosts, and they're really trying to do the unexpected, right? Choose somebody totally new. So I almost don't even have predictions for who's going to be on The View, because I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in a man to be a co-host, and just somebody that we wouldn't even have considered, you know, because I think that it is an older show, getting older, and it could maybe use a little new blood and something surprising. So I don't have a short list because I think that they're going to surprise us.
And as you know, over the years, The View has covered a lot of different topics, but recently, last year, they were named the most influential political show on daytime TV by the New York Times. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the historic nature of 5 women hosting a politically relevant talk show and what that means for mainstream media going forward.
I think it's really special, and I think it means that, you know, anybody can be an expert in something if they put the effort into it, right? And if they are sort of genuine about it. You know, look at Whoopi Goldberg was an icon before this show because she, you know, is a Black woman who has hit so many milestones within the entertainment industry, right? Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony winning star performer. And then she is a longtime host of The View, which, like you said, has been lauded as a hugely influential political show. And so I think that tells us that we can move away from only having to listen to political scientists and ex-politicians and even journalists like myself when we need, to talk politics. We can also talk to people that are outside of those arenas that might have just as much expertise in that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, Nate, outside of the three topics we touched on today, what other entertainment news are you keeping an eye on to have an impact in both the entertainment world and society this year, Bud?
The big one right now is Britney Spears. Yesterday her father just requested that the court end her conservatorship, which is a big deal. And that's, the publicity of this case, I think, is going to change conservatorships and how they're viewed by the courts and the courts of public opinion for probably eternity. I don't think a lot of people knew what that was before now. I don't think a lot of people knew how restrictive a conservatorship could be, how it could be misused and abusive the way that it has been for Britney Spears. So I think that specific case and the fact that it will now most likely end is a really big deal that's going to change how conservatorships are utilized in the future.
Yeah, and one other issue I wanted to bring up was the end of the Ellen DeGeneres show, because obviously when that show first started, she had to work extremely hard to get it in front of people and trying to make it stick, and obviously it's become a nomenclature for a lot of people, because a lot of people watch that show and identify her as a pop culture icon. So I'm just wondering, as her show ends this year, your thoughts on the impact that her show has had as well.
Yeah, that's another huge one. Another longtime staple of American life in some form or another, if not because of her talk show, then because of her sitcom before that, which obviously is a hugely historic television event because she came out on that show and then eventually had such a successful career after that and became one of the most beloved comedians in America, if not the world. So that's a big one too. I fully expect that we will continue to see her as well. She still hosts game shows. She's got Ellen's Game of Games, I believe it's called, and she'll still be around. So, we're maybe losing the Ellen DeGeneres show, but we're not going to lose Ellen anytime soon.
And I really want to thank you for your insights and perspectives on some of the latest entertainment news. Your time, energy, and efforts on my behalf are most appreciated. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Well,
and I want to thank you for being here, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.